Audi, could have come up in something comfortable, but no, we had to come up in the Subaru.
It's brilliant. We're here, we're safe.
Oh, God's sake.
Oh. Right. Car Chem then.
Yes, let's go. Right, we're up here today at Car Chem, one of the largest manufacturers of car care products in the UK. We're going to have a chat with Stephen Townsend and Luke, the managing director. Have a look around the factory, have a bit of a background on what's going on with car chem and the car care industry in general. Let's go and have a look.
Subaru's still working as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Heated
Brilliant.
seats maybe next time.
Good afternoon. Today we have come to Car Chem in Nottingham, or near Nottingham.
Yeah, North Nottingham.
And we're joined here by Luke Fletcher, who's the MD.
Yeah.
And we thought we'd have a chat about what Car Chem does, about the industry, and just generally chew the crud, really. Now, many of you will have heard of Car Chem. They're really one of the biggest manufacturers for chemicals that we have around here.
Yeah.
And they also produce lots of products on behalf of other companies. And there's really quite an interesting business story behind. So Luke, we started in 2010 here.
That's right, yes. So in 2010, Car Chem came about. We established the business. Didn't start taking products to market until 2011. Started out pretty much from scratch. The way it came about was I was always into chemistry and always into my cars. It's a family business that we manufacture chemicals for a lot of years.
So you're saying your dad was a chemist?
That's right, absolutely. And he still runs a business now, manufacturing for the printing industry. So when I left school, I joined his company, worked in the laboratory, then went on to do some technical sales within the printing industry. Then soon after, we realised that there was a crossover between the printing chemicals used and also the car care chemistry with shampoos, polishers.
So that's interesting. So it's about showing the technology developments that you've got in printing and stuff like that.
Sure.
We've heard this before. So it's interesting how there's the crossover between trade, and I suppose the commonality is the chemistry itself, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a full range of raw materials that you use within the printing industry, such as surfactants, hydrocarbons, polymers, all crossed over into the car care industry as well. So when we were in the early stages of development, we looked into this in a big way, myself and the chemist who we had working for us at the time. Mm-hmm. And realised quite soon after that, it had legs. We could develop chemistry and formulations which stood up pretty well against the competition that was out there. Starting from scratch, we had to do a lot of market research. We had to develop everything from new. So that all formulations we develop on site are all Car Chem based.
So I mean, just to put that into context, is in a lot of cases you buy a formula which has sort of been developed already,
exactly.
Quite often abroad, isn't it? A lot of them American.
Sure.
So for example, glass sealant. There's a thing that I believe is owned by an Indian company, a kind of a formulation which then goes over to Korea, which then comes over to here as glass sealants, and it's common to most glass sealants.
Yes.
And that's kind of how the chemical industry works. But you're saying that in the case of the Car Chem products, while I'm sure you don't reinvent the wheel in terms of soap has got soap in it,
exactly.
Sort of thing.
Yes.
But that they are actually developed in the house, which I imagine gives you a much greater scope for being able to come and adapt them to customer requirements.
No, absolutely. It puts us in the driving seat, so it gives us full charge and scope and flexibility to develop products which we believe are right for the marketplace. Mm-hmm. It's all UK manufactured, so we're big on that. We're big on making sure that everything developed here is completely REACH compliant, health and safety legislations. We're massive on all this kind of thing.
This is a really important topic,
Sure.
and a really hot one at the moment. We are filming this at the end of November 17, and what's recently hit the market are all these sort of eBay sealants, ceramic sealants, which are literally £4, £5, £6.
Yeah.
And we've had some of the members saying, in terms of the requirement for personal protection equipment,
Sure.
PPE, is that they're getting sore eyes, really struggling with the breathing side, so really nasty chems. And then other people saying goes on, and they behave completely differently from conventional ceramics in terms of their cure times. Yeah. Now, I remember talking to a colleague of yourselves and saying you'd actually got some in and were having a bit of a play with them.
Yes.
And by the sounds of it, pretty lethal.
They can be. The thing is with importing any chemistry, and to some extent within the UK as well, you don't know to the full extent where they're manufactured. So I mean, for instance, with the ceramic coatings which we were talking about and that have come on board, that seem to be almost a cheap alternative to what's out there. We've had a little look into this, and I actually went onto one of these guys or companies' websites and tried to ask for MSDS sheets that were relevant to the chemicals, and didn't get any response back. Now maybe that was just because they were inundated. I don't know. I'm not speculating.
Doctors phoning up from hospitals. Yes.
Absolutely.
Just an FYI, MSDS stands for Material Safety Data Sheets, otherwise known as SDS, from the kind of hip, cool people.
Absolutely, that's right.
I wouldn't know anything about that. And they are essentially the go-to. They don't tell you kind of the full ingredients list, but they tell you everything in a product, in a solution that is kind of its active ingredients, things that are of risk. And they give you normally quite vague concentrations. So if something's got an acid in it, will say acid, less than 5% or between 5 and 15%. That sort of thing.
No, exactly. So all raw materials throughout the world have something called a CAS number. So that's all relevant to that specific raw material. And MSDS sheets will basically state any harmful ingredients that's in there, and it will give you a percentage banding as well. So it will say possibly between kind of 5 and 10% of certain CAS numbers of raw materials. So it gives you relevant and important information about what potential hazardous chemicals are within that finished formulation.
So there are two benefits. That one is obviously if, for example, child drinks your shampoo, you take him to hospital if he's, if you care for him and stuff.
Sure.
And the doctor can then look up the SDS sheet and find out, oh, okay, you've imbibed this. There's not much we can do.
Exactly.
Or that they can do the right thing. Yeah, no, I don't like children. And that's one element to it. But the other element, of course, is if you're mixing products or putting stuff in with each other from that point of view, there are some things you don't want to mix together.
Yeah, completely. You have to be very careful when you're mixing raw materials that they don't react badly with each other. So, chemical knowledge and actual trained professionals within the chemistry industry, when you're manufacturing it's so important. And I'm not kind of talking out of turn when I say that there are quite a few companies throughout the world that potentially don't adhere to those rules, and there are some companies that possibly manufacture on a very small scale, can't afford a chemist, things like that, and it's hard to kind of develop to a stage where you can. In a way, I kind of understand it, but still, it's for the end user, it can be very dangerous. So, for us, we have to make sure right from day one we were set up, making sure that we are completely REACH compliant. We fulfil all kind of EU regulations, which it possibly could all change.
Well, yes, with Brexit, it's also a bit of a minefield because also bear in mind, when it comes to thinking about your own product line and stuff, is first of all the little logos and the safety thing on the labels. They changed about 3 years ago.
Yeah, so in 2011 we were meant to change them, but they gave us a 3-year gap after that. So it was the old chip regulations they were called. So people will be aware of the orange boxes that it used to be. And then now it's the CLP regulations, which is basically a red diamond, red triangle, red diamond. So this is what we use now, and we have to adhere to all this. And basically how we get to know what hazardous information we need to put onto the labels is we have a system in place on site where we input all the CAS numbers for the raw materials that are incorporated into the formulation.
So these CAS numbers, sorry, is it elemental? So if you've got carbon in there, carbon's got it, or is it a kind of a compound?
It's specific to that exact compound.
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. And then it'll basically naturally create an MSDS sheet. So this is what we have to work off all the time. Whereas some people I've heard in the past where MSDS sheets are created in-house without these systems, so it's a little bit of guesswork. Now MSDS sheets are around about 12 pages long, so it doesn't just state the raw ingredients that's hazardous. It also states storage, transportation, what happens, toxicology, what happens if you swallow it, all these different aspects which have to be included. We've seen MSDS sheets which are kind of an A4 piece of paper.
Absolutely.
And you kind of think, wow, that doesn't give you a lot.
It really needs that detail.
Sure.
I mean, the level of toxicity. So, if you've got then it says, you need 500 mils to kill somebody, then it'd be a real shame if you only had bought 300 mils.
No, it would be, if you didn't like them, yes.
I don't know, inheritance. So one thing I wanted to talk about is Car Chem is known primarily, if you ask anyone in this trade, Car Chem, what product they make, 1900 to 1.
Sure, yes.
Tell me how that came about.
Yeah, so in the early days, obviously, we'd formulated shampoos. It should be kind of a core part of any manufacturer's kind of arsenal is a good shampoo. So we managed to formulate a few alternatives, and then we had the idea a year or two down the line. Okay, so we've got all these raw materials together. Every shampoo has to have a carrier of water. So you have your carrier of water, and that's where you mix in all your raw materials into that. So the percentage of water from normal shampoos, if you range in a shampoo from kind of 5 to 800 to 1, the ratio of water is around about 60%. So it's quite a high volume of water within there.
So when you're buying a litre, you're getting 600 ml of water for
absolutely,
and paying for the postage.
Exactly, and then 400 ml of raw materials blended together, different surfactants, things like this, to make it a soap and to make it actually wash and clean.
So it's, surfactant is a type of detergent, and just the way in which they work,
exactly.
They go in and kind of make the dirt break itself up. I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a raw material that we include in all kind of wash products.
Yeah.
So our 1900 to 1 shampoo, we took a formulation that we had developed, and then we basically cut the water back. So in our 1900 to 1 shampoo, we only put 12% water in. So it's a tiny amount of water. So it's completely built up of really good grade 1 surfactants, cleaning agents, which basically break down dirt on the surface. One small capful will do a 25 litre bucket of water, and it will be more than comparable to standard shampoos out there on the market. It's won awards. It's one of those kind of flagship.
I think there's a Detailing World Award.
Yeah,
there,
no,
first prize.
Absolutely.
Very well done.
Yeah, no, that's it. So it's one of those products which it's a flagship product for us, and we're very proud of kind of like the chemical knowledge that we've put into it. So it did take a long time to develop.
Does it, just a sort of general product question,
Sure.
Does it contain any gloss enhancers? Is it like a wash and wax, or is it purely just lubricity and cleaning power?
Now with this shampoo, you're going to get some hydrophobic effects afterwards. We don't include any gloss enhancers or any waxes into it. It's natural. It's natural hydrophobic ability afterwards.
So does it work on, say, matte wraps and stuff like that?
It'll be absolutely fine on matte wraps.
It doesn't add any gloss to that?
It won't add any gloss or anything.
Okay.
It will just enhance the bodywork. So if it's a matte wrap, it'll enhance that. If it's if a newly painted car, it'll enhance it. So it's a very kind of neutral shampoo in that way, and this is why it's got such a wide market for it. People use it all the way from you kind of top-end detailers. We also sell it a lot, like we do for all our chemicals, a lot in our private label, so bespoke to customers' own label, and they can then go and either sell it as it is in the concentrate, or they can water it down themselves and possibly sell it as maybe 1,000 to 1 shampoo, 500 to 1 shampoo. They can develop it further if they need to.
I have to admit, I have seen it in some high-end nameless detailing bays where you have a very expensive tub of shampoo that would probably cost a 3-figure sum, and seen them decanting the 1900 at 1 into it. So,
no, exactly, and that's the beauty about it. It goes a long, long way.
Yes.
For repeat business, it's possibly not the best because it does go such a long way.
Yeah, shot yourself in the foot.
Absolutely, sure.
So moving on, we mentioned your private label side.
Yes.
What proportion of, say, by volume,
Yeah.
so say just for argument's sake, you do 100,000 litres a year. I know it's going to be many more than that,
Sure.
but just for argument's sake, what percentage goes out with your Car Chem logo on it, and what percentage goes out with other people's on?
So it's as big as 95% is own branded. So the Car Chem label itself is only 5% of what we do. That's why we've never pushed the Car Chem brand itself. We've never spent any money on advertising. It's all come naturally, just because all our money and resources go into developing new products for our customer base. So we're very much kind of trade-based, manufacturing for companies out there who need either specific products, possibly they can't manufacture specific products within their remit, or if they want a whole kind of solution developing by us of formulations ranging from your general wash and waxes all the way through to your LSP, so your last stage protections, waxes, sealants, things like that.
So there's a whole spectrum here, and what's interesting is very few car care companies produce their own chemicals. Very few actually manufacture them, but I think there are even fewer who are able to manufacture everything. So even ones who we know, make their own stuff. I've walked around their factories and stuff. There are certain things they have to buy in from other countries or from other people, simply because the equipment needed to make a shampoo or a wax is totally different from a ceramic sealant. And in terms of the most exciting parts where the industry's going and stuff, obviously we had the bleeding fallout removers. That was kind of a thing, wasn't it? Ceramic coatings are hot topics still. They seem like they've been going around for years, but they're still, they bring out new ones now with two-stage ones and stuff. You guys, do you provide a ceramic coating at all?
It's in development. Now, ceramic coatings throughout the market, it's a very widely used term, but very misunderstood term as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
For instance, there's not, for me, I don't know a UK manufacturer of ceramic coatings. So we want to be the first, and if there is one, it's not kind of on the mainstream market. Right. So we're looking to develop one ourselves. We're in the process of developing one. Because everything we do, I wouldn't buy one in. So we haven't brought one to market yet because we haven't developed it. It's not a case where we go, well, we haven't got one, so let's go
and get one
and buy one.
Put a new label on.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's not what we're about at all. Everything we manufacture, everything we sell, we manufacture ourselves. So including the ceramic coating. So currently, the chemist is proactive in looking into potential ingredients for ceramic coating. We are, I would say, 30 to 40% there. Looking to potentially bring it out in the first quarter of 2018, hopefully. Oh, wow. So fingers crossed, it's on the horizon.
Cool. Any headline figures we can get excited about? Have we finally found a 12H coating or?
No, we haven't found anything kind of massively different. For me, the ceramic coating market, so when we talk about ceramic coating, we're talking about TiO2, so titanium dioxide, and SiO2, so silicon dioxide. They're both slightly different. So silicon dioxide is basically a liquid formula, a liquid glass formula. And they get mixed up quite a lot within the market. And people will say, this is a new ceramic coating to the market, and more often than not, it's not an actual true ceramic. So it's not going to give you a 9H hardness on the surface. But there's a lot of companies that kind of get away with it.
Well, it's the MOHS scale versus the pencil lead scale, as always.
Exactly, yeah.
A fun one.
Yeah.
Instantly, yeah, but it's very, when it comes to hardness, one sort of be a little bit cynical.
Exactly right,
as we said. But yeah, so we've got this. Is there anything else that's in the pipeline you can tell us about in terms of?
So we're just looking into developing the ceramic coating and the SiO2 products. They're kind of most important for me to develop now, and they're taking quite a while. For instance, ceramic coating, so TiO2 has to be melted down around about 1200 degrees, or it can be mixed down, from my understanding, into resins, into solvents or hydrocarbons, and you have to mix it down correctly to get a true ceramic coating. So this is what we're looking into, and it's causing quite a few obstacles. More than anything else is because it cures.
Yes.
It cures within air. So it's about how do we mix it, how do we formulate it. It's one of the hardest formulas that we're working on, and that we have worked on in the past. So those two are at the forefront of our testing.
It's the tricky one. Do you feel pressure, because there are so many products out there now which say SiO2 included in there, and we've been over to Angel Wax, and there are some home truths revealed about, as you were alluding to, that there's SiO2 and SiO2, so to speak. Are you kind of, the reason you're doing it, is that because you feel there are genuine benefits in using this technology, or is it because everybody else is doing it, so we kind of got to get on that bandwagon?
Yeah, there's certainly benefits, but there's also negatives as well. It can fall into the wrong hands, and an amateur detailer, so somebody who hasn't looked into it and kind of developed the skills within the detailing sector can get their hands on these, especially nowadays with all these cheap imports coming in. And it can be dangerous, as in they don't know the chemicals that are going into it, which is the biggest danger, but also they don't know what they're applying to their car, and they don't know how to apply it to the car. So there's a lot of cases, what we're seeing now, and probably body shops more than us, is that these coatings are being applied to the car and they're having to strip it right back to remove them, because once they do adhere to the car, it's really hard to get them off.
It's really difficult, the instructions, you have to fit a lot on a very small bottle.
It's a very small bottle.
That's the main challenge.
No, exactly. Yeah, and also on that small bottle, it comes under limited quantity as well, so all the hazards that potentially are in these, they don't have to be stated on there, because it comes under a certain amount of liquid. So that if the bottle's, off the top of my head, I think it's around about 30 mil. If the bottle's 30 mil or under, you don't have to actually add hazard statements onto the bottle, just because of the simple fact they won't fit.
Yes.
But then nobody knows what's on there unless you can gain the MSDS sheet, which I've found out sometimes it's not that easy, to get. So we're wanting to develop, one of the main things that we're looking to develop is more user-friendly coatings that contain titanium dioxide or sodium dioxide.
Okay, so it's adding usability, because I mean there seems to be an arms race on hardness and durability, and all these companies bringing out new ones. SEMA was a hotbed for it.
Absolutely.
But I mean, focusing on the usability of a product, particularly I mean, it's what Autoglym do to an extent. Is that their products, the idea is, I mean, I talked to one of their chemists and they were saying, we need to build products that people can use without even reading the instructions.
No, without a doubt, couldn't agree with that more.
And that I think is a really necessary thing, bringing it kind of to the masses, as you say, taking it not just from the detailers or the people who don't know what they're doing.
No, exactly right. I think it's so important that products now are developed for ease of use. You know, that's what the world is coming to. The easier we can do something, the better. Everything's online shopping now. We don't have to go down to the shops to get something. And it's the world over. If we can make something easier but still get the same results, then I think it's a market seller. It's going to work. So for us, one of the development things is to do these that are that we can market to the masses, that we can get out into the public market through private label, because of what we do, and offer it to people, and they're not going to have any repercussions on it, either health repercussions or damage into the car. So this is one of the things which, development-wise, it's massive for us. Another development for us is an updated range of polishers.
As in compounds?
As in compounds, finishing polishers. Now,
we've been told, there's an interesting point, is that I think it was Dom at Dodo Juice, in fact, was saying how compounds are about the most expensive genre of product to develop. Is this come true for yourselves? Yeah, absolutely. Polishers potentially would be one of the hardest products to develop, because, just to give you a bit of information on polishers, basically, what you want to do to make a good polish up, you have a water-based solution and a solvent-based solution. The water-based solution is alkali. This is how we make them. An alkali solution, which is water-based, and then a solvent solution with it, which is acidic. And then you will blend into each section. So you do basically 2 premixes. You blend into each section relevant materials. So you could do waxes into the solvent-based, maybe polymers into the water-based, just to give you kind of a loose idea. And then those waxes, that's for lubrication, is it?
Yeah, the waxes, if you're doing kind of a last stage protection, or if you're doing a finishing polish,
or an all-in-one, I guess.
All-in-one, absolutely. Then you know, normally we work with waxes which will go into the solvent-based. There are waterborne waxes, so you could do either or. But basically, you have 2 premixes, and then you blend them together, and you do a process called emulsification. So you emulsify the 2 together, and this is essentially what brings a polish together. And then you can add in kind of like secret ingredients, raw materials, things like this to make it stand out, to make it different from the next guys. So that's really, as a basic rule, how to kind of make a polish from scratch.
And how do you make, the one thing I'm intrigued by is you've got diminishing polishes and you've got polishes that don't diminish. So that's the abrasive molecules in the actual polish that break down while you use them. And one thing is about having homogeneous molecules that break down homogeneously, i.e. at the same time to the same shape. How do they make the actual abrasive particles to be the same size and shape and behave in the same way, and then pump it all into a bottle?
No, sure. Well, basically, we work with a lot of raw material suppliers who have big machines, and they will grind down possible solids into powders, so that they'll refine it down into powders, and depending on what kind of cut you want, some of these can be more coarse than others. Then we would mix it into one of those pre-mixers, and then we blend it into that then. Gotcha. So it's some of these compounds, some of the abrasives that we mix in, you want them to remain as a solid. So obviously it will remove scratches, it will cut deep into the paintwork. So you want them to remain as a solid, but you want them to be uniformed. So basically you have to use different types of mixers. You know, there's a butterfly, there's ribbon, all these different types of mixing vessels to make sure that you're not smashing them in and ruin the actual the makeup of the powders. But all you want to do is make sure that they are homogeneous within the solution.
Within the solution,
exactly.
Yeah. That's all interesting stuff. So I'm just looking through my list here. We've had, I imagine your biggest success is 1900-to-1 shampoo and all the derivatives in different bottles with different labels on. 1900-to-1
shampoo is one of our biggest sellers. This and also our fallout remover.
Yes.
You know,
which is Revolt.
Revolt, we call it. Yeah, just because of the smell. Yes. This is why we called it Revolt. Because obviously the nice egg smell you get from it.
Yes.
But you know, it works great. I think we've kind of, hit the nail on the head with it a little bit with the viscosity, so that the thickness of it.
It is. It's very clingy.
Yeah.
What about the smell? I've known some sort of second and third gen fallout removers,
Sure.
and the smell is getting better. I mean, it's still not what I'd choose to put over my cereal in the morning,
Sure.
but it's kind of marginally more acceptable.
Yeah. So within any good fallout remover, you use a few alternatives.
Thioglycate.
So sodium thioglycolate is one of the main ones.
Get that. That's well said. That.
Yeah, I've said it many times. Just rolls off the tongue now. So sodium thioglycolate is the main reactive ingredient within there, and basically this ingredient we include it at a quite high percentage. So we include it at around about 33%. So it's a third of the entire product. Now, to my knowledge, and looking over kind of competitors' MSDS sheets and things like this, I believe that that's the highest on the market. And so it does show the reaction time, how many contaminants it actually breaks down itself. We've not found one that kind of comes up against it.
Is that the sole? Have you got any other sort of active ingredient in there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's not just that. I mean, water-wise, we put a small amount in because again, that's the carrier chemical. Yeah. Every formulation has a carrier chemical, oil, water, solvent. So it's a water-based solution. So it has to be water to start. Yeah. Then you mix in the other materials on top of it. So sodium thioglycolate is basically what we mix in at the end. But before that, we mix in a range of surfactants. We mix in a corrosion inhibitor as well, which, to my knowledge, I don't know if there's another one out there that mixes in a corrosion inhibitor. So basically, it combats things like acid rain. So it helps. It doesn't just remove contamination. It will help any kind of build up in the future. It will help any corrosion to.
So it's actually going to coat it to an extent.
Absolutely, yeah, to some extent. It hasn't kind of got a wax or polymer or siloxane in there to coat it, but it just helps to remove any kind of essence of corrosion within the wheel.
That's cool. That's cool. And what's interesting is I was talking to a colleague, and he was saying how you buy in the competitive products, which is what everybody does. Some don't admit it. Some are like, no, we came up with the idea of a wax all of our own. We've never heard of such a thing before. But a lot of them do, and it's comparative testing. It's sort of benchmarking, that sort of thing. But what I was really impressed with was, whereas some, will look at it to try and find out what's inside it, and they look at the MSDS and all the rest of it and try and reverse engineer. But what you were saying is that actually we look for product compatibility, so that, for example, they bought an expensive Swiss wax, something like Crystal Rock or something, one of the high-end ones, and didn't want their shampoo to remove the wax from the car.
Yes.
So they actually tested it for compatibility, which I thought was a really nice touch.
No, exactly. We always go down that line. So application testing for us is a massive thing. We want to know that, on paper the formulation that we've produced might look great, but it doesn't always work like that when you put it out into the field. So before it is sent out into market, we make sure application, and what we try and do is cover all bases. So we cover worst case scenario. So if we're exporting, say, to a hot country, we'll go through testing in an incubator. We've got incubators on site to make sure that the chemical doesn't break down in hot climates. Same again in cold climates, and same again in cold and hot climates within the car, so the application with the car as well, because we fully understand that.
Well, is this your excuse for the Bahamian holiday with a nice rental car?
Completely, yes. Exactly. I'm hopefully off there soon, but I probably won't be.
The HMRC won't be watching.
No, exactly. Yeah. So that's the plan.
Do you have a kind of a secret list of beta testers who you send stuff out to, or is it all done in-house? We
like to do it all in-house. We're fully aware that testing is very subjective if you send it out to a lot of different people. The whole market is based on opinion, exactly. So we want to make sure we get the facts right first, and then we can send it out, and you do get a very varied array of feedback, all relevant and all that we take on board, but it is very, like I say, very opinionated. Yeah. So we do put it out to field test, absolutely do. But before we do that, we make sure that
you're 99% there already.
Absolutely, we've worked with the formulas, we've worked with the raw materials. We know that on paper it should work. So then we want to make sure that it works in the real world ourselves, and we go through rigorous testing first and make sure of that before we actually put it out to other people.
Brilliant. And so the service that you offer. We're going to wrap up now because I know you've got meetings to rush off to.
No problem at all.
In your Jaguar F-Type, by the way.
It needs a clean.
It does need a clean. Do you know a man? the service that you offer, because it's quite exciting stuff, is you essentially are a one-stop shop for somebody who is interested in creating a brand, doing the marketing, the packaging, all of that side to it, and getting into the product side from a kind of a commercial element, I guess, rather than the chemistry element. And they can come to you, they can say, look, I want a product, and I guess they have the option of saying, well, here's the basic, you can have that with your own colour and smell, or we can tweak it more fundamentally to your requirements, or if you're totally bonkers and got lots of dollar, you can have something completely from the ground up new, and you can provide all of that for them in a way where you get it all labelled. You can, I imagine, liaise with all the bottle suppliers, M&H and that sort of thing, all the label providers, make sure it's got the safety information on. Product insurance, I imagine, is another important thing to do. Shipping overseas. I mean, I know some companies have got an employee purely to deal with overseas shipping because it's so damn complicated.
Yeah, no, exactly. We have an export coordinator in-house, and it's a minefield.
It is, absolutely. So that, I think, as a one-stop shop is really, it's not entirely unique. There are a couple other companies out there. But you've grown from, what, 2010 to, I know you didn't release till 2011, but to 2010, so 7 years.
Exactly.
And I mean, this facility, we're going to take a little wander. We're going to be closely marshalled because, for obvious reasons, there's lots of very secret stuff. We've all had to sign NDAs, and we will be shot if we reveal anything. Yeah, or
blindfolded, which doesn't help the camera work, I suppose.
No, that's cameraman's less good then. I don't know if you'll notice, but we're saying kidding. So we're going to take a little wander around and have a look at some of the equipment that you've got and stuff like that. And then I imagine we'll have lots of sort of besuited men with sunglasses covering labels and stuff like that.
That's right.
That's what we were hoping for.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for watching part 1. I hope you enjoyed our interview with Luke over at Car Chem. If you'd like to watch part 2, where we go to a Curious Spree and meet Tom and a Nissan Figaro, please click there. And if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, please click there.